Hi, friends. This is your pal, Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about how Dungeons and Dragons, and specifically the incredible power of the legacy of Gary Gygax and what he built into Dungeons and Dragons, is forever changing Magic the Gathering in a way that only I am aware of, and that I want to illustrate to you and how and what I really want to talk to you about is Dungeons and Dragons is changing Magic the Gathering fundamentally into something it is not, right? Into something, yeah, it's something it is not today, but that it will only be very soon. And how what is happening on Magic the Gathering is a massive misunderstanding of what the function of Magic the Gathering is, and that the vast majority of people who are interacting with Magic the Gathering in extremely deep and profound and sacrificial ways don't understand Magic the Gathering at all, or what it's becoming. All right, so let's get into this. So this has to do with I think that the best term I've come up so far is narrative striving. Okay. So let's jump into this. So February 7th, 1974, Gary Gygax creates Dungeons and Dragons. It's not, in my humble opinion, it's not a game. It's a brand new, powerful method for improving, growing, and transforming every single aspect of human society. Gary built Dungeons and Dragons to improve, grow, transform every dungeon master at the table, every dragon master at the table, fully understanding that they would go out into American society, completely transform American society with what they had found in Dungeons and Dragons, and then that the rest of the world would copy American society. That's the pattern, and so I believe the pattern is Gary Gygax's legacy transforms every dungeon master and every dragon master who sits at the table and reaches a point of engagement with Dungeons and Dragons. Not everybody who plays Dungeons and Dragons reaches that point, but if you become a true dungeon master, a true dragon master, you will. There's no way your life will not be completely transformed, right? And then you'll go out and you will catch the rest of America on fire, and then the whole world will copy America. So Gary's legacy, in my opinion, is a complete transformation of human society at the intellectual, emotional, and spiritual level, right? Yeah. And trust and believe everything I just said. The ramifications of that are astounding and are organic. They grow like a plant, right? And this is what I'm saying. What I'm revealing to you today about Magic the Gathering is something that has organically grown from interacting with Gary Gygax's legacy on Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons is not what people think it is, and its impact for every single thing it touches is astonishing and shocking. And to tell the truth, for me it's exciting. For others it's terrifying, and I get that. And well, people should be afraid of Dungeons and Dragons. Transformation is not a small thing. It's a frightening thing for many, many, many people, and for this Magic the Gathering change, it is alarming. Right? There are people who are highly invested in Dungeons and Dragons, monetarily, intellectually, emotionally, are highly invested, highly, literally and figuratively, or both, right? Highly invested. This is pretty profound. Okay, all right. So, this last holiday season, right? I was very fortunate. I had a nice break, had quite a few days off, right? So, one of my holiday guests comes in, and they want to play Magic the Gathering. Right now, I have a huge amount of Magic the Gathering, and I literally started playing Magic the Gathering in 1993. I have cards that reach back to 1993. I have a collection that is literally 32 years old. It's an old collection. But I had to shift gears. I was like, oh, yeah, but my Magic the Gathering isn't like your Magic. And I didn't say this to the person because it would be upsetting to them. People don't like, they're like, I'm a collector and I'm a player and I'm a competitor, and I'm like, and I don't want to be dismissive. I don't want to be insulting, right? And I needed to not say, well, my Magic the Gathering collection is completely different, right? So I believe that that basically James Wyatt came along, and James Wyatt is running at the same frequency as Gary Gygax. So Gary Gygax on February 7th, 1974, Gary Gygax brings Dungeons and Dragons forward. At this point in his life, he is running on a specific frequency, right? It's an intellectual, an emotional, a spiritual frequency. What is that? Well, courage, risk, sacrifice, and innovation, right? And that's what allows him to bring this incredible, society transforming thing into the world, right? Dungeons and Dragons, right? James Wyatt comes along and he does the same thing in about the middle 2010s, right? And what he does is he connects Dungeons and Dragons. And think about Dungeons and Dragons as like this huge live wire, right? Like think about it like as a wire that was cut from those telephone poles, and it's just arcing lightning in every direction. And so James Wyatt comes, he catches the live wire of Dungeons and Dragons, and he jams it straight in the eyeball of Magic the Gathering. He connects Dungeons and Dragons to Magic the Gathering, and in my humble opinion, makes every single card that is printed with the Magic the Gathering backing full 100% canon to Dungeons and Dragons forever. Every single Magic the Gathering card that is ever printed with a standard back, right, is connected 100% by canon to Dungeons and Dragons. Many people disagree with this. This is simply my humble opinion, right? And actually, you're like, where's the proof for that, right? Where's your evidence for that, right? And actually, I present evidence, right? You can since it's my opinion, you can decide on your own. But I will present evidence and let you make your own decision, make your own opinion on whether that's true, right? But I presented that here, and I'm not going to repeat myself here on why every single card printed in Magic the Gathering with the standard Magic the Gathering back is 100% canon to D&D. I strongly believe this, right? So basically, he comes. So this guest triggers me building commander decks. So that night, I build 2 commander decks, right? And I bring them to the table. I brought a sliver deck, right? But the sliver deck, I didn't have enough slivers to make a full commander deck. So what I did was I put in all of my Stranger Things cards, right? And all of my 1983 Saturday morning cartoon cards into the deck. And then I played it, right? And we played a 4-player game, and my deck was not even remotely competitive, right? But because we were in a 4-player commander game, everybody was biding their time, preparing, getting their engines up and running, right? And so it allowed me to put well over 15, maybe 25 different cards on the board. And I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, right? I'm seeing the narrative power of each of these cards. I'm seeing the narrative potential. I'm seeing the narrative expansion of what each one of these cards in Magic the Gathering means for Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing narrative striving. I'm playing Magic the Gathering not to defeat any foe at the table, although I'm capable of that. But to see what the narrative power of each Magic the Gathering card is in Dungeons and Dragons. And then once they're established within the Dungeons and Dragons milieu, then Gary's legacy occurs, and the improvement and the growth and the transformation happens. So what I'm saying is that there is competitive play in Dungeons and Dragons. There's competitive play in Magic the Gathering. It's useless. It's not important in any way, right? It's not the true purpose of Magic the Gathering. It was in 1993, okay? But when Peter Atkinson said, I have yacht money, and what I'm going to do with that is not buy a yacht, but buy Dungeons and Dragons, he wanted to transform Magic the Gathering into something more than a game. And that's exactly what's happened, right? I believe that Dungeons and Dragons has organically inserted itself into Magic the Gathering, and that all of the competitive play that happens in Magic the Gathering is worthless, is nothing, is unimportant. And the only valuable thing to do with Magic the Gathering is to play it, to explore the 50,000 individual, unique, distinct cards that exist from the for the purpose of exposing narrative potential, narrative expansion, and narrative importance, narrative freight within each card, considering each card as nothing more and nothing less than an unbound page of Dungeons and Dragons canon. And when you fully embrace what I'm saying, that means that you have 100,000 pages of Dungeons and Dragons canon today, but 50,000 more pages that are not acknowledged or even understood as Dungeons and Dragons canon, which means the vast majority of Dungeons and Dragons canon is completely unexplored. Do you understand that? Do you understand the ramifications of that? And this is why what I believe gets so much pushback, and why you get a million shadow accounts showing up and saying, Scott, you're wrong. Scott, you're, terrible ad hominem insult. Scott, blah, 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 right? Because they're terrified of what I'm saying, right? Do you know how huge and robust the Magic the Gathering commercial industry is? And it's nothing. It means nothing. It means nothing now. There is no importance to it. There is no value to it. Magic the Gathering has no commercial function whatsoever anymore. Rudy from Alpha Investments doesn't understand this, nor do the millions of people who receive Magic the Gathering as a competitive game. But that no longer exists. They only think it does, like an arm that's been cut off. They still feel it there, but it's not there. The only value in Magic the Gathering is its connection to Dungeons and Dragons, and how each single unique individual card is a page of unbound, printed D&D canon. And that there's now this uber book, right, that only the most narratively connected Gary Gygax frequency explorers can even see. A book that others can't even recognize as a book. Canon that cannot be recognized as canon, except for a number of people on this planet who you could count on one hand. Me, James Wyatt, a few others. Maybe not even James Wyatt, right? And the reason why is I'm not sure he can publicly acknowledge what he's done, right? Like, the ramifications of it are so profound. Almost like Van Gogh, right? Like, his work will be appreciated in full context. Like, people passed sunflowers and were like, "Oh, look at that piece of garbage. I don't want to buy your stupid painting." Now, if you put up $80 million to buy sunflowers, you'd be turned down, right? The ramifications of James Wyatt's work are massive. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion, nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing and have a fetch millennium.